Welcome to the Munro Review, where it's all about connecting, sharing, and valuing the arts in the central San Joaquin Valley. I'm Donald Munro. Today is May 7th, and I'm coming to you from the CMAC studio in downtown Fresno. We have a great show for you today. We have a special piece about art hop and a special guest to introduce it, and then we'll shift into an extravaganza of theater. We'll have a segment on the Artistry Unbound Theater Company, a newcomer to the scene. We'll have an on-location story about the Fresno State production of The Sins of Sor Juana, and we'll have a rundown on the summer theater season. Then we'll put the spotlight on the new Selma Arts Center production of Seussical, including a musical number. First, let's take a look at some of what we've been covering on MunroReview.com. The Munro Review reporter Doug Hoagland has been keeping close tabs on the second grant year for Measure P, the arts funding program for the city of Fresno. The big news so far is that it looks like there will be more applicants this time around and not as much money. That means it could be a very competitive process. The Measure P folks received 278 letters of intent to apply for a grant, which is the first step in the process. That compares to 137 total applicants in 2024. The Broadway and Fresno season is ending with a national tour of Tina, the Tina Turner musical, which plays May 12th and 13th at the Soroyan Theater. I interviewed one of the cast members and I'm looking forward to seeing this bio musical for the first time. And here's a fun fact. I wrote an article about the Fresno Philharmonic for Symphony Magazine, a national publication. It's about conductor Ray Hatoda and the orchestra's remarkable world premiere of a score that was inspired by the story of Mas Masamoto, the poet/organic peach farmer who has brought such visibility to Fresno. You can find a link to that story on the Munro Review website. Now, let's get to our first guest. Olivia Pavao is an intern with the Munro Review and a lover of the arts. She is in studio to talk about art hop. Welcome, Olivia.
Hello.
So when I say art hop, what do you think of?
Art hop is, I like to describe it as like a hub of artistry in downtown Fresno. It kind of takes over all of the streets in downtown Fresno, and you kind of see like a total change in the community. It's really cool.
And what's great about it too is it's like kind of browsing at a buffet. You can just go one place, you go to another place.
Totally. There's a ton of different stuff. I actually haven't been in about a year, and it's not as busy as I remember it, but still lots of different things, lots of different vendors, local businesses, lots of local artists. So it's very fun. Now for the May Art Hop, you actually visited a place that you had never been to before, and I've never been to it either. Tell us what is that place? The M Street Arts Complex is one of the Art Hop venues, and Create Studio Fresno is located in the M Street Arts Complex. The owner, Rena Gonzalez, got to curate the front gallery, and she decided to invite a bunch of her local friends who are artists to kind of display their work. They had a baker, they had My Guy Market, who does sandwiches. They offered free sandwiches for anyone who bought from a local artist. They had a ton of different painters, they had a thrift store. It was really cool. So I went and did a package. I interviewed the owner of Create Studio Fresno, Rena Gonzalez, and let's take a look.
It's the first Thursday of the month, and you know what that means. It's time again for Art Hop to transform downtown Fresno into a hub of local artistry, including the M Street Arts Complex.
So tonight is Art Hop, which means it's first Thursday, and there's lots of venues open in downtown Fresno and Tower. And tonight I got to curate the front gallery, which is super fun. I have a bunch of my friends who are artists and also local makers. Just a fun night celebrating art and community in our complex.
I think it's very important to all artists in the community to come together for these things, because it's like more easy to like do when you're with people that you know, like also other artists that are doing the same thing, but also to get your name out there and to kind of just collaborate with, like I collaborate with Rena. She's the owner of Create Studio, and I met her at work one day, and then we realized like we both do art, and so we've come a long way as friends, but also as artists to like put on a show.
Bakers, painters, and creators galore filled Create Studio's front gallery at M Street. It was clear that each featured artist had curated a display of their true passion projects for this month's Art Hop.
My favorite part about Art Hop is, for my studio specifically, is when people come in and they kind of get lost in it.
This is some new art that I recently just did, and these are sun prints over some acrylic paint, spray paint, and oil pastel. And then these are just little collages that I made with National Geographic magazines and like foil paper. But I always thought of like boats with like butterfly wings as sails. And then I made my own paper. Yeah, it's a long process, but yeah.
Just around the corner from the M Street Arts Complex, food trucks and vendors line the streets of Fresno's Brewery District for a First Thursday Art Hop block party, highlighting more local artists and businesses.
I'm inside of Sun Studio Warehouse in downtown Fresno to beat the heat at Art Hop, and I will be trying Pizzaiolo's pizza. I got a pepperoni pizza, so let's try it. Pretty good.
Between neighborhood artists, live music, and dozens of food trucks, there is an abundance of creativity displayed through different artistic mediums at Art Hop. You can really feel the love and life that these local businesses pour into this community event.
Thank you very much, Olivia. Our second group of guests represent a new theater collective, which is a tremendously exciting development at any time. A big welcome to Astro Williams and Isabella Maria Huerta Moultrie of the Artistry Unbound Theater Collective. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I am totally serious about, I love those words, new theater company or collective or whatever it is. You know, you can never have enough new theaters. So
Yeah,
I'm excited.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about that. So Astro, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about the collective? How did you decide to be part of it, and what are you trying to do?
Well, the theater collective started. It's under a year old. It's relatively new. The members of the collective represent more than just actors and actresses. It's basically representation of different art disciplines throughout the community, underrepresented voices, undervalued voices. And one of the most important things is that it represents people of color and sharing stories that members in the community connect with and identify with. That's one of the most important aspects of AUTC.
Great. So, Isabella, you are actually in the first production.
Yes, I am.
Tell us about that production and what character do you play?
Yes, 4 colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. So I first heard about that 2 days before auditioning. I had first heard about the new company and the show. So when I heard it was a core poem, I thought that was so amazing. And I really feel it was almost God sent, because the week before I had written my own poem, and I was just going on and just making videos of me saying my poem. And when I saw that on the audition form, it said that you can either do a monologue or a poem. I'm like, okay, that's perfect. I'm gonna do the poem. And so I auditioned, and it's been amazing. Yes.
So it sounds like you had something perfect to audition with. Astro, can you talk a little bit more about what a theater collective is, and maybe how that's different than what we think of a theater company?
Well, the difference between a collective and a company is more about the members in it and what they represent. The theater collective, most of the time when people think about theater, they think about just staging, they think about theatrical productions, plays, but it represents a little bit more than that. We have different aspects of what the collective represents, and there's different individuals that embody our entire group. There's artists, there's actresses, there's singers, there's dance, and a whole sorts of other creative disciplines all within one creative umbrella. So that was one of the main things that our production manager, Levi Hills, wanted to emphasize. He wanted to make sure that everybody felt like their role is and was important and played a pivotal part of being one of the whole, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that theater collectives just have a rich history, and when you talk about the history of theater, that some of the most famous productions have come from these collectives where everybody participated in doing the show.
Right. That is really what AUTC is all about. Representation, sharing stories. You know, we want whoever the audience members are or the people that experience our collective to feel like their voice matches the messages and the stories that we're telling.
So I understand that for your second production, you're doing a famous musical.
We will be auditioning for The Wiz, which is a very popular theatrical production, and it was also a film out of the 70s. Famous Diana Ross starred in it, Michael Jackson, and a couple of other famous characters played, in that movie. And we wanted to bring it to Fresno and make it local. The story is, if you're not familiar with it, it's a story about, it's kind of an urban spin on The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy, she's in the inner city, she's trying to escape the concrete jungle. She has to travel through Emerald City to finally meet the wizard. And it kind of goes along the same storyline, but then there's subtle differences and a little bit of surprises once you get wrapped up into the production. I think that when we go back to representing underrepresented voices and stories that are shared but not shared from our perspective, that The Wiz is a perfect production for what AUTC is all about and what we pretty much try to represent through the stories that we tell.
And you're thinking about that's scheduled for October.
Yeah, we will be having auditions for The Wiz late July, and the show will be set to start working in October.
Okay. Isabella, why do you like theater? What does it mean to you to be able to get up there on stage?
So I love theater because I feel it is the time that I'm fully able to express my art as not only a dancer, not only an artist, it's everything. The thing about theater is it's so vast, you know what I mean? And I used to feel as though like on stage, I'm not myself. I can be whoever I want to be on stage. I'm not, just say, I'm nervous, right? Well, I'm not nervous. This character isn't nervous.
No.
This character doesn't carry pain. But that's why I love theater. I feel I'm able to be myself. I feel I'm able to represent myself and my creative
That's
life
wonderful. It's transformative,
yes,
isn't
for
it?
sure.
It's very
And
transformative.
I always go back to this idea that live performance is such a special experience. It's a special experience for the audience, for the actors. There's a connection between you that you don't get with any other medium. Yeah. How long is For Colored Girls playing? And I guess another question is, where is it? Because it's in a non-traditional venue.
Yeah, well, the setting that we chose, it's a local venue. It's actually at 1611 East Street. That's we are actually on the last week of, or next week, the following weekend will be May 16th will be our last set show.
Okay.
And then we'll be working on moving towards The Wiz.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to come out and enjoy, we'll be showing this weekend, Friday through Sunday, from 7 to 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop by. And like I say, a new theater collective, that's great news.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Fresno State's production of the Sins of Sor Juana finishes up its final weekend as we tape this show, and I'm sure a lot of you got to see it. Producer Claudio Laso and I dropped in on dress rehearsal last week and filed this interview with director Gina Sandí-Díaz. Here's our report. So we are here with Gina Sandí-Díaz, who is a theater professor at Fresno State and is here to talk about the latest Fresno State main stage play. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us on final dress rehearsal night, right?
Yes, very exciting.
So this play is called The Sins of Sor Juana.
Yes, correct.
Tell us about that title.
Yeah, so it's a story based on the life of Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, which was a poet, literary figure, and pretty much a cultural icon in Mexico and Latin America. And she lived in the 17th century when women didn't have much options, and she wasn't supposed to have an education. But this is a person that was very unique. She learned to read and write at the age of 3 by herself. When she was 8 years old, she dressed as a boy to be able to enter a university campus. And because of that, her family supported her, sent her to the city, and she ends up being a part of the court in the New Spain of the time, and eventually becomes a nun and has the biggest library in the New World at the time. She owned the biggest library in her little room at the convent.
So I guess one important thing to note is that she had the support of her family.
Her mother,
yes, at the beginning in terms of getting an education. So for that, she was extremely lucky.
Yes, absolutely. Her mother also gifted her a slave, which we believe there's a character in the play that is an indigenous character that we believe is a connection between this relationship that she had.
But at the same time, she knew that if she were to get married, most likely her husband, whoever her husband would be, would say no more books, no more
books,
reading.
And motherhood would have been the next step.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Mm-hmm. At what age do we meet her in this production?
In this production, she would probably be around 16 years old.
Okay.
If realistically,
Sure.
Probably around 16 years old. Yes.
And does this follow? How many years of her life does this?
So the
follow?
play doesn't move in a linear manner. It kind of looks at different aspects of her life. So there are moments where we are at the court, when we imagine she would have been a teenager, and then there are moments when we are at the convent, which was later on in her life, and she died being a part of that convent as well. And the play does take a look at her final moments as well. So it's not very age specific, but we are going through different aspects of her life.
Now, you mentioned she is this cultural icon. How do people know about her? Is it through her Is it through her writings?
Her writing, yeah, her poetry specifically. So she has a very famous poem called Hombres Necios, translated into Foolish Men, which actually makes an appearance in the story. But other than that, she also wrote plays, and she wrote letters, lots of correspondence that has been published right now. One of the peso bills in Mexico.
So that's when you know you've really made it.
Yes,
if
correct.
you're a face on the
Her
the bill.
face is on one of the bills in Mexico, one of the peso bills.
And does she represent a sense of female empowerment?
Absolutely. Many scholars consider her letter in response to Sor Filotea to be the first feminist manifesto because she makes an argument about humans being souls at the core and souls having no gender. And if that is the case, then we should all have the same access and to education and to everything, pretty much. There should be no difference between men and women.
So what made you pick this play?
Well, several reasons. First, just I connect a lot with that figure, and I think a lot of us do. Just the power of having the courage to stand up for yourself and your values and your God-given gift, which she refers to her intellect as her God-given gift. And so the courage to stand up for that, regardless of what society is trying to impose over you, I think is a very contemporary message that a lot of us can relate to. And then it's a story that, of course, in age, it's similar to the age of our students, and I thought that it's a story that they would find also very inspiring and interested to play.
Can you tell us a little about your title character, your Sor Juana?
So Beyonce Rodriguez Favela is playing the role of Juana. She brings, well, her beautiful voice and presence on stage, but also like a sense of fierceness and power and independence that contemporary women will connect to, and that I believe are qualities that also Juana had, for sure.
And how big is your cast? How many actors do you have?
We have a cast of 12, and there are some ensemble members and some leading roles and secondary roles. It's a big production with lots of moving pieces, beautifully designed by mostly students of our department. So light designer, sound designer, set designer, the costume design, all of those areas were done by students. And we have a lovely lobby exhibition with their work as well. So it has been a tremendous amount of collaboration across the different departments, all led by students, which is really interesting and gratifying.
And you mentioned that the playwright made some changes to the script just recently, because there was another production of this play in Fresno a few years ago. I think it was 2019.
Yes, the original script, I believe, is from 2006. And so that's the production that was done in Fresno was with that script from 2006. And then she revised it and published it last year in 2024. And a lot of it's really small changes, not a lot of changes, but pretty much the character, the indigenous character, Xochitl, which is Juana's companion, is more relevant in the new adaptation. It has a more prominent role as somebody that carries some of Juana's legacy as well and protects it. So those are the major changes in the script.
Had you wanted to do this show for a while?
It's been in my drawer for sure. As a show that I potentially wanted to do. I've also it's not my style to do period style pieces, and so it was a challenge for me to have to make this production happen. And so it's been in the back of my head for a few years now.
It's a really fascinating time in history.
It is.
It really is. What would you like audiences to take away from this production?
I would hope that we feel inspired by her words. A lot of her poetry comes alive in the play, and so the use of language is beautiful. I think audiences are really going to enjoy the artistry. But I hope that we all leave with a sense of hope and a sense of courage to keep going, and no matter how dark times can become.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing yet another intriguing, provoking play to the Fresno Theater audience.
Thank you. Thank you for having us and having a space for us to talk about it.
As you see, we've already given you a lot about theater already in this show. Since we're kicking off the summer theater season, we figure we might as well get comprehensive. Here's a rundown on what we can expect on a bunch of local stages during the next few months. At Madera Theater Project, American Mariachi, June 12th to 21st. The Lightning Thief, the Percy Jackson Musical, July 3rd through 12th. In the Heights, July 24th to August 2nd. At Selma Arts Center, Seussical, May 23rd to June 14th. Rent, July 11th to August 2nd. Hadestown, Teen Edition, August 15th through 30th. At the Second Space Theater, Silent Sky through June 22nd. The Taming of the Shrew, June 27th to August 17th. At Roger Rocca's Dinner Theater, 1776 from May 23rd through July 20th. Frozen, July 25th to September 21st. At Labyrinth Collective, Our Stories from Door to Stage, May 24th to June 21st. Children's Musical Theater Works, Bye Bye Birdie, July 11th to 20th. The Wizard of Oz, Youth Edition, August 1st through 10th. Reedley's River City Theater Company, Fiddler on the Roof, July 11th to August. Chanticleer Shakespeare Company, Richard III, June 6th through 15th. Now let's get to our final guests. Seussical is being performed at the Selma Arts Center. Here to talk about it is Toph Ortiz and Savannah West. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us.
I don't think I've seen Seussical for a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time since the full version of Seussical has hit the stage.
And so when we're talking full version, it's basically an opera that you guys took on.
Yeah.
It almost all singing.
Barely any lines.
Yes.
Whenever people speak, it's to the music. So it's all very structured through that music that plays.
So, Toph, you are the director, and Savannah, tell us who you play.
I play Gertrude McFuzz in our Think cast, since we are double cast, a one-feathered tail bird who is in love with Horton the elephant.
Horton the elephant, interesting interspecies relationship.
Yes.
There. Very different from the last time we saw you at Selma.
Yes, and Alice by Heart.
That's the beauty of theater, isn't it? That you can go from
one to the other.
One to the other.
The next day, literally.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you played a bird in Alice by Heart too.
Why, yes, I did.
Birds of a feather.
Yes.
So Toph, what made you want to do Seussical?
So the appeal for me with Seussical is the wide range of ages that it speaks to. There's a lot of fun and whimsy, which we've talked a lot about whimsy and joy throughout the experience and the process, and how that can ring true for people who are 1 to 99. But what's really wonderful about Seussical is the heart that's in it. The whole story highlights and emphasizes the importance of using your brain and thinking and not feeling like you're stuck in any type of box or that you can be judged by other people by what you think and what you believe. And it's really at the core of it, this really beautiful tale of how important community can be and how important it is to find, whether it is your biological family or a found family, finding people who believe in what you believe in. And I think that's a really important thing that we need right now.
It's a very clever script, working a lot of Dr. Seuss like lyrics and dialogue and great music.
Yeah, really great music. Very catchy, very zany, a lot of words. What's really wonderful is they pull a lot of direct script from different books, from different Dr. Seuss books. And whether it's a main plot device or it's a reference in a song, there's a ton of content for Dr. Seuss fans to look out for.
So, Savannah, did your parents read you Dr. Seuss? Do you recall?
No, not that I remember. I was more of a Baby Einstein kid.
Baby Einstein? Little
Baby
Einsteins?
Baby Einsteins?
Little Einsteins.
No, Baby Einsteins.
I'm unfamiliar.
Oh, I'll tell you about it later.
Okay, we'll talk.
But
next year you'll be doing Baby
Einstein's
the
musical.
Right.
Yes, of course.
No, but I remember being like in school learning about it and having like green eggs and ham day and learning about things like that and connecting through the material that way rather than at home. But I definitely feel like I took it with me and carried it through my life for sure.
And do you get the feeling that parents these days are still reading Dr. Seuss to their kids?
I hope they're just reading to their kids is the biggest hope.
Yeah.
Whether it is Dr. Seuss books or not, I truly think there are some Dr. Seuss books that are standing the test of time consistently. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas just recently had an animated movie done again after it had a live action with Jim Carrey, which has also lasted forever. A lot of the content that Dr. Seuss creates tends to have really long lifespans. Cat in the Hat also, an icon who
you start talking about those familiar characters that he came up with.
Yeah.
Toph, what is the hardest thing that you had to figure out how to stage in this show?
The hardest thing that we had to stage, I think the most difficult thing is figuring out how to put 25 people on a small stage and make it look like there's not 25 people on a small stage. But we've had a really awesome cast who are very up to whatever challenge I've brought to them. But there's a specific scene at the end where all of the Jungle of Newell characters are on stage, while also all of the Whoville characters are on stage. But Whoville is a tiny dust speck, and you can't see or hear them. But they're all supposed to be on the same stage at the same time. So that took a lot of brain power, but I think what we've been able to create helps the audience keep the world separated while still allowing everybody on the stage, which is pretty fun.
So can I admit a complete secret Dr. Seuss
Oh, this is a safe
confession?
space, please, please.
I was scared of the Whoville. I was scared of that speck. There was something about it that frightened me.
Like existentially? You were worried.
Because then I started like not wanting to step on things because I was worried that there would be like a whole world.
I think you should be scared.
You never know.
I think that Dr. Seuss actually, that was like
your first instance of
true
like
philosophical.
Are we the
quandary.
dust speck floating through?
Exactly.
And I fear we kind of are.
Exactly.
In a grand scheme kind of way.
Maybe we are, and just it's all going to go tomorrow. Somebody's going to sweep us away.
But we've taken a lot of liberties with the source material. A lot of iterations of Seussical harken back to like the original illustrations and drawings, which is really lovely to see kind of those drawings come to life. But our production as a whole really kind of steps a little bit away. A perfect example is the Who's that you were talking about. All of the Who's that we have for Seussical are not in agreement with Jojo, who's kind of our other main protagonist in the show, a kid who's very overactive with his imagination and is always thinking, getting himself into trouble. And so to help kind of represent that and push that narrative forward, all of the Who's are going to be puppets. So they're all puppeteers. They're really adorable puppets made by Kim Houston, who does all of our specialty puppets at the Selma Arts Center. And Jojo is the only Who that is not a puppet. And we get to kind of see that physical manifestation of Jojo not fitting into the rest of the species that he's a part of, the rest of the world that he fits into.
I think I could deal with that a little better, knowing that
more
they're puppets.
approachable. Yeah. I agree. They're super cute. I think you'd like them.
And maybe you could have a gift shop afterward.
Especially since it's not going to be the drawings, it's copyright free.
Right. So you are going to offer a musical number. Actually, you're not, but you're gonna be in it after the break. But we're going to be seeing somebody else come out here on stage, and that person is actually in the control room right now producing the show. How did this happen?
So the producer, Claudio Laso, he and I go way back. But he is our Horton the Elephant for the Think cast in Seussical, and Savannah plays opposite as Gertrude. And so they have a lovely song together called Notice Me Horton that they're going to present to you in just a short moment about Gertrude going through a lot of troubles to get Horton to notice him, and Horton is fixated on this dust speck, or looking for this dust speck that he cares deeply about.
Poor Gertrude. It's like the siren song of anybody who's been trying to get somebody's attention.
Exactly.
And it's not over for her either after this. She keeps going.
Well, great. Coming up after the break, we are going to hear a musical number then from Seussical. Ladies and gentlemen, the song Notice Me Horton from Seussical with Claudio and Savannah.
It's taken all my courage to approach you, not to mention all my stamina to follow you across the hills and deserts, but I feel as if I'm ready to confess to you the feelings that I've hidden with great diligence and labor. Behind the facade of your odd little next door neighbor, my eyes are too small. I have very large feet, and I'm not very proud of my pitiful tweet. But I've now got a tail that is something to see.
102, the 103.
Oh, notice me, Horton, feather by feather. This is your next door neighbor calling. Notice me, Horton, Horton together. We could be great. Oh, notice me, Horton. Put down the clover. This is your next door neighbor calling. There's a new leaf. Your neighbors turn over.
Over and over, clover by clover. I was just a no one only yesterday. Showed up and showed me something more. Now I've become a someone who has someone to believe in and to be there for.
I will not give up hope. I was hooked from the start when I noticed your kind and your powerful heart. So notice me, Horton.
The world would be something new.
Notice me, Horton.
If they noticed a thing or two.
Notice me, Horton. The way I notice you.
First time we had an elephant and a bird on stage. That wraps it up for this month's episode of the Munro Review on CMAC, which is funded in part by the City of Fresno Measure P Expanded Access to Arts and Culture Fund, administered by the Fresno Arts Council. Be sure to keep up online at munroreview.com for previews, giveaways, profiles, reviews, and more. A big thank you to our CMAC crew, a thank you to all of our guests, and for all of you, please keep exploring and supporting the local art scene. We'll see you next time.